Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. It's been going on for quite a while now. The protests are continuing. I think we're looking at what? It's been somewhere around, for sure, since Monday. But then things have happened in quick order. The demands of the protesters have been met. The police have told us that they're replacing SARS with SWAT, but protests are continuing. It's mysterious. Well, why are the protests continuing is what a lot of people are asking. Some of the protesters, from what we're hearing, are just saying that, quite frankly, one is not too sure. But there's a report on it.
Nigerians have been on the streets protesting over the brutal antics of some operatives of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad of the Nigerian Police. The federal government gave in to the demands of protesters on Sunday, announcing that the FSAS has been disbanded. Following that, the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, ordered all defunct Special Anti-Robbery Squad personnel to undergo a psychological and medical examination. But many have greeted these pronouncements with skepticism after previous vows to restructure SARS went unfulfilled.
A blood of a police officer is the blood of the nation entirely, because who protects us? Now, civilians who have been injured, government has taken cognizance of it.
Others, like this group, are worried that the protest has been hijacked by some members of the political class.
Going protests across the country. We want to unequivocally state at this junction that the dimension the protesters have assumed is really becoming worrisome, because we see that the protests have been hijacked and other actions are seemingly described as unbecoming and threats to national security.
Encourage them. Of course, we equally tell you that there's always room for improvement. And also to call the National Assembly to approve more funds for their welfare and equipment for the purpose of better security in this nation.
Another advocacy group began using #EndSWAT as a replacement for #EndSARS, which was the #1 trend globally for more than 48 hours. On the ongoing protest across the country, some are of the belief that the protest has assumed a worrisome dimension and a threat to national security. Habib Alawal, TVC News, Abuja.
Well, indeed, a summary, a roundup, and it's a continuing story. Even as we are now, reporters are all over the place as well, wherever the protests are. So it's a continually breaking story. But let's look at some of the issues. As that report said, there might appear to be, some skepticism as to skepticism over what they have been told clearly by the president, the vice president, the inspector general of police, I think Speaker Badiabia Miller, just about everybody. Largely, it seems as if all that they have presented, they have wanted. But the protests continue. Now we're beginning to hear that some fear unwholesome elements might be infiltrating their whole movement. Let's find out from a professional, a former Lagos State Commissioner of Police, Mr. Fatai Owosheni. He's on the line with us. Good morning, sir, and thank you very much for making time.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Yes, Yori will do so.
Good morning, VLs.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. What do you make of the situation we have? Because, touch wood, when you were commissioner, this might have actually been on your beat, even though it was a different time. What do you make of this? The attitude of government to the protesters, quite frankly, conciliatory, I think it must be agreed, conciliatory, patience. But now the protests are not going away, and as I just said, there are those who are apprehensive that perhaps unwholesome elements are, infiltrating the movement. What do you think that the protests, the streets haven't been vacated as of now?
I think both ways. There must be a kind of alignment and a kind of agreement that after all the protests, both sides should be able to sit down together. The demands that were made have been met. the ones that have not been met, I will actually plead and beg the organizers of the protesters that they should tarry a bit and give government a chance to put up the necessary measures in order to implement those things. The voices of our people, of the youth, have been heard. And of course, skepticism, people are not too sure. Government is actually taking steps to demonstrate that they are serious and they are sincere in this implementation. And that is why I plead that the protesters should tarry a bit.
Sorry, Mr. Woshini. Mr. Woshini, do you think it is part of the problem that they themselves say, and people have observed, this is not an opposition group. This is not an opposition body. This is leaderless, so it is said, scary as that thought is. So do you think it makes it harder to actually relate with the group? Because I have actually heard some of them, well, one to be precise. I have seen one video on social media, I think that was yesterday, maybe day before yesterday, saying very much what you've just said, that, guys, our demands have been acceded to. And as you just said, the ones that can be met have been met, and those that cannot immediately, as Governor Sanwo-Olu pointed out, some things are a matter of process. Those ones, you know, it's all about seriousness. So this guy, this young guy, was saying that it's time for us to leave the streets. But it persists. And now the army has put out a press release saying that it is loyal to the commander-in-chief and that it will, you know, take very, very sternly anything that they see as a breach to the peace and tranquility of the country.
Yes, all the views are right. But one thing has led to the other. The fact that they are pessimistic, the fact that there is skepticism, it's probably because of the way we find ourselves. If you followed, if we go back to memory lane, the issue of police reform for the past 3-4 decades, people have been talking about it. It's been topical, but it's also always followed by lamentation, condemnations. It is not starting from this government. It's not starting from this Inspector General of Police. What we've not been able to do is to look at all the past recommendations. I must tell you, I think the government is also realizing now that the police is the symbol of government. The police is the symbol of democracy. And probably the government will now take the hard stance and say, okay, yes, we are ready to face the issue of the police. I've always said, 1957, the Willing Commission, it's one of the things that that came up, that the police should be an institution which operational control, as it's concerned, shouldn't come at any time under the control of any political parties. But we've been paying lip service to some of these things.
Okay.
So that is why government, in doing whatever, they should demonstrate sincerity.
What do you think? Sorry, Mr. Woshin, I got the button again. I'm sorry. One of the technical issues that has emerged is the matter of SWAT replacing SARS. You know, there have been comments of that. Some think it is. The Inspector General of Police had explained it, that there will be a specialist unit. They can only be called out. They don't patrol. I don't know. But there are those who are saying replacing SARS with a special weapon and tactics squad. Some people have issues with that as well. Do you think it is? Okay.
Let me also say this, that everybody is talking of SARS. SARS are policemen. If we say, okay, SWAT should be cancelled, I want to appeal to the protesters. It's as well as saying, let us abolish the police, because it is the same men. The police in Nigeria as of today is not specialized. It's a general duty approach we use. Is because for a long time, the leadership of the police, for some of us that have served there as well, we've not really engaged the members of the public. When it comes to policing, it must be done with the consent of the people.
Yeah.
The issue of whether they have leaders or not, it can be addressed. If you remember, when I was Commissioner of Police in Lagos, that was when Two-Face came up to say he wanted to do that.
I believe there's been an interruption in the network, but we're speaking with former Lagos State Commissioner of Police,
it was
Mr. Fatayo Wushieni.
Hello?
Okay, you're back. You were out for a while.
Yes, I'm back.
In fact, so much so, sir, the Inspector General of Police had also explained to a group, I think, yeah, I saw this video. It was the Inspector General of Police was talking to the musician Davido, and he used the opportunity to explain that you take SARS out, you've got to put something in that will be doing what SARS did and will be doing it properly. There can't be a vacuum. So the point that you were making, sir, there can't be a vacuum.
The point I was making is that the issue of that there are no leaders among them to negotiate with. I don't want to buy that.
Okay.
They can identify those ones that can organize them. In Lagos, during that Two-Face movement,
yes,
we identified the leaders. I personally took the leadership of the protesters. I spoke to the bros Charlie Boy to say, look, we need to organize these people. And the youths must also know that if they continue this way, they are also now doing like the government that are criticizing. There must be a set of people that they will engage with. And I also don't blame them. When we're talking of SWAT, we also need to look at the police institutions and the colleges now, where we want to train this new set of people, where we want to reorientate our policemen. Are those colleges ready? And that is why I'm appealing to the youth. The colleges as they are now, they are in dilapidated state, they are in pitiable state. The provisions are not there to even say that you want to reorientate people there. So that is why the sincerity of government, it is very, very essential. The National Assembly...
sorry, Mr. Woshieni, sorry to interrupt you. What do you think now at this stage that the Nigeria Army Public Relations is putting out this statement that it is able and willing and ready to defend democracy and use the opportunity to pledge its absolute total loyalty to the president and the Constitution, and also saying that they were ready to be drafted to assist civil authorities. So you see, all that kind of language that they're saying that they are ready, and I think they really targeted the message at those they identified in the message, as far as I could see, as enemies of democracy.
We should, as much as possible, accommodate opinions. And at this stage, I would rather advise that, yes, it may be possible that some people have hijacked the protest, but there's still room for dialogue. People can be identified to be dialogued with. And I want to appeal to the protesters, our youth as well. They are doing a fantastic work.
Okay. Again, temporary seizure of the network. But I think what Mr. Wishin is saying there, I've also seen it, is that, look, protesters are not criminals.
When you look at it as it is, every other institution, everybody has been talking about police welfare and whatever. Every other institution have a means of venting out their challenges. Sometimes when you go negotiating for salary increase, the Wages and Salaries Commission will say, look, if we don't treat the military well, they can plan a coup. Doctors will go and negotiate. They will say they can go on strike. Or the policeman, the average policeman doesn't have a voice.
Okay.
So and that is why the police should also look at a way of dialoguing with those people that, okay, maybe this is the voice now. This is what we make the government to wake up.
Mr. Woni, because of your knowledge, Mr. Woshieni, because of your knowledge, your professional background, I wanted to ask you, the Army putting out the statement that it has put out, do you think it is ominous?
I would say sometimes such thing may be necessary because the country must be defended. But I also think that this is democracy, and people voicing out their grievances, venting anger in a civilized and democratic manner should be allowed. And that is why whatever reform that should be done should also be domesticated to our situation. People have said in the UK, police will behave like this. Do we have the same kind of people here? We have a culture of violence. We have a culture that has been militarized. So whatever reform that will be done should be targeted at a culture. We have a culture that corruption is pervasive at the highest level. We have a culture where even the people that are calling for the reform are also part of the problems. Some musicians were called. You'll find out that now most musicians carry mobile policemen with horsewhip. We've not been able to check this. Political office holders carry policemen with horsewhips.
I hear you. I guess the army is, I guess the army is also hearing this, and what I am reading from what you are saying, or at least the way I feel about the matter, I'm sorry if I'm injecting myself in on the issue, is that perhaps the army doesn't need to be ham-fisted about this and needs to approach it with the kind of surgical delicacy that government itself has up to now done. You know, responding in a ham-fisted sort of a way might do more harm than good.
Yes, so that it will not snowball into more deaths. Because all the people that are calling for this reform, you find out that because of the violent culture we have, if you don't have mobile policemen following, soldiers are following now, civil defense are following, carrying guns to follow political office holders. They've turned police to chattels. The ones that don't have policemen, even among the musicians that they're talking to, they have bodyguards that molest people at parties. So it's a culture of violence. And that is why the government has to think through it. The police authority has to think through it. The youth should not stampede the government, the Inspector General of Police, doing fire brigade approach. The issue of police is very, very delicate. I have mentioned something. SWAT or no SWAT, do we have the facilities for their training? Go to all the police colleges. It is zero. So if you don't have the facilities, if you don't have the phase of change that can change the police, we are going nowhere. So we should think through it. The youth should give a bit of time, let them go back, let them say, okay, let's look at these things together and see how we can think through a solution and put up a structure. If you look at all what everybody is saying, we don't need any law. The National Assembly is talking of a law to hold individual police accountable. The police regulation is very clear with regards to this. Under Regulation 341, it is clearly stated that in the individual exercise of the powers as a police officer, every police officer shall be personally liable for any misuse of his powers. We have the Anti-Torture Act and all those things. There are so many laws. We've not allowed the laws to work. The police, I will continue to repeat it, must strengthen the internal oversight mechanism.
Okay, one moment, please, Mr. Osheni. I beg your pardon for interrupting you. One moment, please. We have also on the line from Abuja, Honorable Yusuf Gagdi of the House of Representatives. Good morning, Honorable Yusuf. You actually sponsored the Police Act and it's become a bill now. All that's happening now, you've been observing, you know, the current situation. Are there areas of the law now, the Police Act that has become a bill, are there aspects of it that speak to what we're experiencing now and could be helpful in resolving it?
Yes, definitely there are a lot of the 2020 Police Act, the aspects that will be of immense assistance to what is going on now. Because if you notice, part of the policy of this administration is to ensure a community-friendly policing, which was embedded in the Act of 2020 that was assented to by Mr. President. Establishment of legal framework for community policing is there, And what is the essence of community policing? Is to ensure that there is an interplay, there is a relationship, is to ensure that community themselves own their own policing, is to ensure participation of people in the day-to-day running of the police affairs in terms of intelligence gathering, in terms of communication. And hither to this moment, if you understand clearly the comment made by the Inspector General of Police regarding to putting in place committees, independent committees that will investigate the activities of the bad egg among the former SARS, where people clamor for their investigation, prosecution, and bringing them to book. Definitely, the new police act give room for that. Otherwise, you cannot hear any police officer or police authority anywhere telling you that they will put in a committee that is independent, that civil society should be of participation. So it is because of the content of the present Police Act of 2020 that gave the police the power to involve community in its own policing. That is why Nigerian people have the right now to demand that independent committee should be put in place where civil society organization will be part of those committees for openness, for us to be able to be part of the investigation. So there are a lot of aspects of the present Police Act that will be of immense value to what is happening across the country.
Sure. Now, because of how you are situated in this, we all are stakeholders. Every Nigerian is a stakeholder, but you in particular, because you actually sponsored the bill, so you've been very, very close to the issue. Give me your personal thoughts, your opinions, if you will, about the ongoing protest. As we've noted, the president has intervened, the Inspector General, governors, just about everybody in authority in society in this unprecedented kind of a protest have been, quite frankly, receptive of the message of the youth and supportive, and have conceded largely the entirety of what they were asking for. But the protests continue. What would you say? Any thoughts?
Yes, I am happy that you are talking about my personal opinion regarding to the ongoing NSAS protest. Like I have been saying, without any fear of political misrepresentation, NSAS means different thing to different people. To me, too, as an individual, it's a different thing to me as it is. Because if we are clamoring for NSAS, nobody is supporting the inhuman activities of the bad acts among the SARS, where people were killed unjustly, where people were harassed and humiliated unjustly. And yes, to be fair to the protesters, prior to this time, previous administration had been talking, just giving a lip commitment to the reform of the SARS itself. And there has not been any physical actions by the previous board of police and of the country, political administration of the country, to ensure thorough police reform. But before the SARS protest commences, there was a bill for Police Act to be reformed. And that bill was reformed by the National Assembly. It shows commitment on the part of the legislature to ensure that there is a robust police reform. And the bill is community friendly in the sense that even the human rights abuses were addressed in the bill. Prior to this time, police can go and arrest a criminal. If they don't find him, they arrest his father or his mother. We have expunged that in the old bill to say that if you come to arrest someone that have done something wrong and you didn't find him, you don't have any right to arrest any of his relations. And again, aside of many other aspects. But my thought on this NSAS thing, we want SARS to end, and we want robust police reform. And before the NSAS protest commences, there has been commitment by National Assembly to ensure that the police is being reformed. It means, therefore, it's not the protest that instigated National Assembly or government to start police reform. It means that we have elected representatives that are willing to ensure that they have added value to the people they are representing. Aside of that, for Mr. President to sign the act, it is not the protest that make Mr. President to sign the Police Act. The Police Act was signed prior to the NSAS. And if you look at the content of the Police Act itself, most of the aspect of the Police Act is against the activities of the 2004 Police Act that was in existence. So For us to have initiated those ideas and ideals, and for the president to show commitment by assenting to that bill, even though some people have their own reservation to it, it means that there is commitment in both the side of the parliament and that of the executive in ensuring their absolute police reform.
Let me stay with you a bit. Honorable, forgive me for interrupting you. Let me stay with you a bit. The protest is along the lines of end SARS in most places in the country. But then there is also coming out of the north a protest for SARS must say. Since we're talking about fundamental human rights, you know, are you worried that a message is being confused here? Because if, you know, that's the situation we have. Give me your thoughts, if you will, on that movement coming out of the north, which is opposite to that coming from the south, which is we want SARS to continue.
Well, definitely there is confusion among the governors themselves. The 36 state governors of Nigeria, they have their own various understanding to end. So SARS, my brother, it means different into even different states. When you go to the north, the northern governors are saying, leave SARS for us. The northwest doesn't want SARS to be disbanded. They want the SARS to be reposted to their own zone. North central governors too have expressed those views. Some governors from the south say they don't want. So if you look at the level of human rights abuses regarding to SARS itself, it varies from one state to another. And if you look at the content, the commitment of those protesters, just like we have bad eggs in the SARS, we equally have bad eggs among the protesters. Take it or leave it. The protest cannot be absolutely unpolitical, in my own view. So there is element of political whatever amongst it, and by the special grace of God, government should be able to study those aspects of political aspect of the protest and address it. I will say it without, again, any fear of contradiction, that among the protesters there are criminals. Take it or leave it. Otherwise, I expect, if there is genuine commitment, the SARS have been disbanded. When you give government benefit of doubt, if you have witnessed that there are reforms that are initiated by this government to ensure that police is being reformed, I expect that the protesters should, if for the interest of this country, that we are coming out of the coronavirus wahala, we need to pray for the country and ensure that they have given some certain terms for the government to ensure, yes, our demands, most of the demands have been satisfied. Then they should wait for the implementation. Prosecuting bad acts among the SARS, then SARS, is not a thing that will be done in one day. There is a process of law, and that must be satisfied, must be followed. Definitely, the protesters ought to, if they were doing that for the interest of this country and for the interest of human rights abuses, which I acknowledge, I expect by now they should have given government benefit of doubt to see whether their demand is going to be adhered to, whether the police reform is going to get to is expected. Okay,
I want to thank you very much, Honorable. Thank you very much, Honorable Yusuf Gagdi, a member of the House of Representatives and sponsor of the Police Act 2020 bill. Thank you very much for making time for us this morning, Honorable. Okay, in Lagos, we still have with us our former Commissioner of Police, Mr. Fatai Owosheni. And I want to, we have just a little time left, so I want to use that time to return to a point you made earlier, which is that
I want to...
Where are the facilities you had asked, rhetorically, to train the SWAT that is going to be replacing SARS? Is that does that concern you?
It concerns me a lot, and thank you for coming back to me. I appreciate it. It would be a disservice to me, having served in the police, if I don't make a small comment with regards to what the right honorable member have just said.
Very briefly, sir. 30 seconds.
Yes,
very briefly,
there are
sir.
Some of us that feel that the new police act will take police back into so many years. There is nothing new in that police act. The Constitution has given the authority for the administration of the police to the police council. What role has the police council played in all this? Don't let us be rhetoric about it. I think the National Assembly needs to do much. They need to also get opinions of people that have been involved. The new Police Act is not the solution to the problem of the police. Rather, it's also going to take the police back into so many years. The
I want to thank you very much, Mr. Fatai Owosheni. I'm afraid we're gonna have to leave it there. But I want to thank you very much for making time for us this morning. As I also have already thanked Honorable Yusuf Gagdi, member of the House of Representatives. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us this morning to express your impressions on this particular topic. I think we should take a break. Let me take a break. I'll be right back. Okay, welcome back then. Let's shift gears a bit, change topics. And Ondo was all in the news, last week, into the weekend, and then beginning of the week. And so Project Ondo Decides has come and gone. And we have a governor-elect in Ondo. The governor-elect also happens to be the incumbent governor. And so we have in Ondo State APC chieftain, Mr. Soji Enyilanwo. Good morning, sir. Thank you for making time for us. Quickly to touch base with Ondo, we've not been able to do that for a while simply because news the way it is and the protest took over. But you're there now. It went very well by all accounts. Are you in agreement with that statement?
Yeah, absolutely. It went quite well. The people decided. The election, from what I can see, from what many saw, was free, credible, and fair. The people showed their preference for the candidate that they wanted.
Any surprises in the elections from your point of view? What I mean is the strategies, as you were studying the election right up into the election, you would have had all your battle plans, notions. Were there any surprises?
Not exactly. There weren't really much surprises. I had predicted that Governor Akeredolu was going to win that election. And I had also predicted that Governor Akeredolu was going to win by a wide margin. And that's what happened. The PDP
over 100,000,
second, as I had expected. Yeah. As I had expected, and and the Zen Labour Party did come a very, very distant third. And that's what I had said. I said, it was odd. The Zen Labour Party was more of odd here, and that's what happened.
You know how it can be with elections sometimes. Sometimes aspects of it get acrimonious. But now that it's all said and done and we're settling down to move forward, are there efforts to sort of, is the word used, is it to sort of politically purify the environment now that we have to get on with the business of governance and all are involved, everybody in Ondo State has a stake?
Yeah, I think that the incumbent governor, Governor Rotimi Akeredolu, has won the elections. The people have shown that that he is the one that they prefer. He's now the governor. Is the governor of Ondo State, and my expectation is that obviously is going to pull everybody in the state together. He's the governor for everybody, irrespective of political party. And I think that's what he's going to do. He's going to move forward and deliver on his promises and agenda. And then pull the state together. Elections being what they are. There's acrimony, there are differences, but this is time to look forward by and the entire people of Ondo State to march forward and get Ondo State to greater heights. And that's what I think the governor will do.
The other thing that you might be able to comment on is the role of the party in this. Oftentimes, in fact, always. The election is not really just left to your candidate in these kind of elections, whether it be senatorial, whether it be governorship and all of that. What would you be able to tell us about the unity or cohesion of the party in Ondo State that probably led to this?
I think the party is even more cohesive than it has ever been. I know prior to the election there were conflicts. in a party where you had quite a number of aspirants who were looking forward to the governorship seat, it's inevitable that there will be differences of opinion. But what was interesting and encouraging was that prior to the elections, the governor, the incumbent governor, reached out to many of the candidates, and that was very, very encouraging. And he was able to pull everybody together. Everybody came on board, irrespective of whatever difference that they had in the past. Everybody, all of the big wigs of the party came on board and backed it. And from then on, there has been that very, very impressive cohesion. Everybody in the party is behind the governor, and that is very, very good. And it makes it very good because we can now, we can now look forward and implement the programs of the party as a united force. And that's what the people of Ondo State are looking forward to, and that's what's going to happen. So we have a very, very united APC party in Ondo State now, and that is really, really good.
Well, I want to thank you for your time, for making time for us, to just give us your overview, as it were, about this election. And I guess congratulations are in order to APC. Thank you very much for your time this morning. Okay, I understand Mr. George has come on the line. Good morning, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
And good morning to the guests there.
Indeed.
Uncle Yori, I want to congratulate the APC for their victory in Ondo State. But at the same time, I want to express my disappointment over what they did in Edo. I know that there are many APC governors who deliberately wanted Oshomole to be shamed. But it's not only Oshomole that has lost, it is the party that has lost. What has happened in Ondo State now shows that it was a deliberate effort to ensure that Oshomole the party does not belong to Oshomole. The party is APC party. And what they have done is like fighting oneself. They have left the whole region without controlling any state. The whole South-South region. That is not Oshomole's problem alone, but I just felt I should register my dissatisfaction. Okay. I'm not an APC member, but what I can see from where I sit is that it was deliberate in an attempt to ensure that Oshomole does not have any foothold in Edo against 2023 calculations.
All right, then. Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for calling in, Mr. George. Interesting perspective. They are comparing and indeed contrasting, the same party in two different states and the motive. It is what it is, and it's an interesting observation that actually, APC, paraphrasing Mr. George there, shot itself in the foot by, doing what allegedly was said to have been done in Ondo State. Who knows? But as we just saw, the cohesion, they're very happy with the cohesion that they have in Ondo there, and things seem to be going well. Another caller on the line. Good morning, Mr. Yakub.
Yeah, Shishori, good morning, sir.
Thank you for calling in.
Shishori, I totally agree with Mr. George. The chairman of the TCC this morning.
You people had an election, eh? You did primaries, I hope. I hope
yes,
you did primaries.
Yes, he's my chairman. So having said that, that's on a joking part. I totally agree with him. You see, usually some of us, we are not really the party person. We are not really the member of the APC. We are just supporting the APC in order for them to provide a good governance to us. But having said that, we still have a lot of sympathy without any reservation. Because the issue is this. Mr. President alone can be able to settle whatever infighting in the party. But at the long run, Mr. President does not do that. It's lately that he started doing that. Let me give you a typical example here, Chief Yori. A lot of things working for Akeredolu in that election. One, after that primary election, he made sure that he unites the people that have grievances. Another thing is this. A lot of work that Akeredolu done in that Ondo State, he really works. He can be able to response. This is what I did. Look at the debate. He even tell the contenders that I tied the road to your house. You get it? So those are the things. It is not working for APC in Edo State. Okay. Even though I stand to be corrected, even though some of the party governors, they work against the party in Edo State. That is why they lost. It is not that they totally lost. They lost because they work against themselves. Okay. So I give it to Akeredolu, and then this second time, we always believe that if governor comes second time, they don't really work. But I want him to prove us wrong. So he should be able to kickstart and work more than the fourth time. Thank you and God bless you.
Indeed, thank you. And thank you also, Mr. Enyilanwo, for continuing to listen in. So it's just as well, it's fortuitous. Did you have any comments on Yakub's impressions there? And before that, George in Lagos.
Well, I think Mr. Yakub has captured it very well. In terms of Ondo State, the governor pulled everybody together, and essentially, and also he's done a very, very marvelous job. So it was not really difficult to expect that he was going to coast through to victory. I don't know, I'm not too very conversant with the dynamics in Edo. In Edo State. In Edo State, but I know Ondo very well. I know I probably, without being modest, know it like the back of my hand, and I know that our governor delivered. Our party chieftains were united, and when you have that kind of when you have those two variables, delivery and the unity of the party, you can't expect anything less.
Okay, one moment, please, Mr. Joshua in Irewole. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, Onguyori, good morning.
Good morning.
Please, could you permit me? It's on the riot.
Go on.
Sorry, on the protest.
Yes, go on. Yeah.
Okay, please. I don't want this protest to degenerate to a riot, because the statement you said the military has issued now is scary. It means that they want to move out against the protesters. I think the military should be told that people have a right to protest. Please, they should understand this. They should have this body language of accommodating the views of the citizens. This is no longer the military era where you go out and kill them and gun them down. Please, they should understand the military hierarchy should try to provide some form of coverage and support for the people. I want to appeal. This is not a time to kill people, please, Uncle Yori. Military should please have that patience to bear with the people. And I want to appeal to the protesters, their leaders. They have leaders. Please, it is time for them to call off the protest. Uncle Yori, I appeal to you. Let them hear it. It is time to re-strategize. You need to fight another day. They have fought the first battle. Let them have a second phase to the battle.
Thank you
Let
very
them
much.
call it off now.
Excellent.
Before it degenerates beyond what they can handle.
Thank you
very much. I appreciate you, sir.
I really appreciate your calling in, Mr. Joshua, and all parties have heard your very clear message. But you wanted to go there, and it's fine. Thank you very much for your comment. But we were looking at Ondo, and so, in fact, you can bring in comments on Ondo, bring in comments on the first part of it as well, where we had a commissioner, but we have a guest with us who will actually be able to also, from within, as it were, the party in Ondo State can react to comments that you might have about the now concluded governorship election over there. But as I said, the phones are still open. Ade in the UK, good morning.
Hello?
Good morning, Ade.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Chief Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
I'm happy to get through to this channel.
Excellent. We're happy. We're happy you got through.
You can see that the protest is getting worldwide attention, like the CEO of Twitter just tweeted. My advice to our army is that
the CEO of Twitter, you said?
Let them take their strength.
What did you say, Ade? Did you say the CEO of Twitter just tweeted?
Conquer Boko Haram there.
Oh,
these are the youth for tomorrow.
Okay.
they should not bother threatening our youth.
Nobody's threatening them.
Mr. Yori, we are quite aware. In 1983 on those states, when the Babangida was there, election took place. Babangida wanted to rig it and send military to Ondo State. They were unable to remove their cloth, the military. Ordinary egg was used by women. Are
they in the UK? So that's in the nature of the impression that you have. So we got to call that an allegation.
We have tradition.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for calling in. Appreciate your call. We're taking calls on it's Ondo. We'll take commentary there. Mr. Lao, that was another comment on Edo. Did you have anything at all that you wanted to add? You don't necessarily have to, but did you?
I didn't catch that Edo one very well. I just
okay.
I just want to just add that, you know, I mean, the last speaker made allusions to what happened in way back in '83.
Exactly.
And then as this election was approaching, there were those who feared that, you know, it was going to go quite violent and all of that. And I think I must commend the security forces. They've done a very marvelous job. And you know, the contestants. I mean, there have been incidents of so a few exceptions, but likely the contenders have approached the contest with maturity, and that's good. So we're kind of moving forward, and INEC did a credible job, and I think we need to give them a pat on the back on that. You see, so our democracy is improving. Things are beginning to thrive even more. And I think if INEC continues like this, we can look forward to better elections. Of course, there are areas that needs to be blocked. There are areas that needs to be covered. But we're doing quite well.
Okay, of course, we're talking politics in Ondo, but just using words like areas that need to be blocked, people might just phone in and think that. So I just wanted to clarify that you are specifically talking about Ondo politics.
Exactly.
Even though so nobody can come and extract those two sentences and saying that you are commenting on the protest. But we have a chief in Chidi. It's not a chief. It's Chidi. Okay, Chief Chidi. We have Chief Chidi in Kaduna State.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, Chief.
Good morning, the guests over the studio.
All right. Quickly, please.
Yeah, I sincerely wish to congratulate the governor-elect and the incumbent governor of Ondo State,
exactly.
Rotimi Akeredolu, on his well-deserved victory.
Okay.
At least this victory has brought down the political tension towards the build-up of the elections. Now that he has been able to win, it is expected of him to bring every other opponent and every other person in Ondo State so that they join hands together to develop Ondo State place.
Okay.
So that they will leave Ondo State better than he met it.
Indeed.
He should not continue to consider those who may have contested against him as his political enemies.
Indeed.
Because
I want to thank you very much, Chidi. I'm afraid I've run out of time. Forgive me, but thank you very much for those beautiful sentiments. I'll give I'll give the last words to Mr. Enyilao, as we have very little time left. But the sentiments of that last caller, that the governor is the governor of all, and people expect him to redouble his efforts, not chill a bit. Is that the impression you also have within the party?
That's my expectation, and that's the expectation of a large bulk of our party members. And I think, indeed, of people of Ondo State. He has demonstrated prior to the election that he is ready to pull people together, and he has a great vision. As far as I can see, a great vision for Ondo State. So he will, I believe, he will go on to pull everybody together and then march very vigorously in terms of trying to achieve greater goals for Ondo State. He has bright goals, very very lofty agenda, and I think he will try to achieve that by pulling the entire people of Ondo State together.
Well, I want to thank you very much thank you very much for making time for us, especially you gave us extra time. You stayed on to also listen to some of the things that came on. Indeed, we thank you very much, as we thank all who have contributed to the program as well. So that's our program. Thank you for joining us. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.